Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. Welcome to Reviews Without Remorse, the podcast that's built on hope. With me, wanted for possession of unsanctioned weapons, forgery of imperial documents, aggravated assault, escape from custody, and resisting arrest, is my partner David. And I am Joe, and I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
Nice.
This is episode number 68, and in this episode, Spawn is back, and this time, Jamie Foxx is donning the giant red cape. Predictions? We'll discuss it. Solo sees a devastating drop in box office. Is it Star Wars fatigue or something more? And then, be careful not to choke on your aspirations as we deconstruct Rogue One, a Star Wars story. What's up, partner?
Those are nice. Nice. I like that. Normal stuff. How about you, sir?
Same old, same old. I feel like this is the first week in I don't know how long that I haven't gone to the movies this weekend.
Wow, yeah, that's true. We kind of did get into a constant barrage of movie, didn't we?
It was pretty much 3 weekends in a row, almost?
Yeah, pretty
Almost.
much. Yep. Yes, indeed.
Funny, he's our man. If he can't kill him, no one can. Yay, funny. As the beat to the age of the world.
Okay, so I heard this, and it's funny too because you were asking me, hey, you know, news for this week, and I was like, nothing. I don't know if there's anything I really want to talk about. And you came up back with, what about Jamie Foxx's as Spawn? I was like, okay, sure, I guess. That's kind of how I feel about it. This movie is being written and directed by Todd McFarlane, the creator of Spawn. So I don't know if this is his compromise to be able to get the movie made or something like that. But whatever this is, because Jamie Foxx is a big name. Having Jamie Foxx attached to, a project seems to be, a thing to get a movie made, which is fine. I don't know if he can pull it off, to be perfectly honest with you. But then again, it's not really all that great a character to begin with.
Yeah, I kind of feel like in the years since, it hasn't really... It seemed pretty cool at the time, but looking back on it, I kind of feel like, now it kind of feels a little silly, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, the original was done, back in like 1997. It starred Martin Sheen, Michael Jamal White, and John Leguizamo as the clown, and had the most god-awful CGI cape of all time.
That was the early days, but...
Yeah, but still, I mean, there's a... I don't know, like Todd McFarlane lives off of the Spawn property, and I found the Spawn story to be okay. Nothing really new, nothing really groundbreaking. The idea that a guy, every time he uses his powers, is him getting closer and closer to dying. That's a kind of a cool idea, but it just never grabbed me as a comic book. And the movie... The movie translation was Honestly, do you remember the HBO series Spawn? The animated one that they did?
No, I never saw it.
Okay. You need to seek that out because that's legit. That makes me understand the character a lot better. And that was a damn fine piece of animation TV show. It was with Keith David as the voice of Spawn. Him with that wonderful little voice of his. You've heard the guy before. Trust me. It's just... That was a great show. And the thing about it is, as you watch the show, you realize, well, how the hell do you translate this to screen? The answer, obviously, is you don't. Sometimes, it's just going to be a CGI fest. It's going to be Colossus versus the Juggernaut fights, like every other scene and everything like that. And if there's one thing that I've been finding lately, that when you start doing combinations like that, it hardly works. It doesn't always work. Take that with a first-time director, and my interest in this movie goes somewhere between zero and nowhere.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I kind of feel like the story of Spawn is more or less the same thing as The Crow.
Yeah,
but I kind of felt like The Crow had just a little more style, whereas Spawn just kind of felt like, I don't know, let's draw. Looking back, I just kind of felt like it was a very amateurish almost take on a devilish superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, it almost feels like very first draft, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't really say I'm too excited for it.
No, nor am I. So, I mean, hey, who knows? We might be surprised. I don't think we're going to be. Then again, lately everything has been a surprise. So, what do we have? Like, we had Solo. We had Solo. Solo was a huge surprise.
There you go.
I think that's really all that we need right now. But no, okay. I'll, show me a trailer, and we'll see where it goes from there. Okay?
I agree. Well, speaking of Solo, Solo had a significant drop in its second week in the box office. 65% was the number that I heard, which is kind of on par with the Justice League, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You could say it dropped so low.
Wah, wah, wah.
I am so sorry.
Quite a, yeah, and I tell you what, I've got very mixed feelings about it. Because again, boy, did I really I was right on board with that whole, let's boycott, let's get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. We gotta get Star Wars back on track. But boy, does it feel a little unfair to penalize this film for that. Because again, this one, it's not a perfect film, but it's got heart, boy. And I really do feel like there's some people involved with that project that really cared about Star Wars. I mean, I think you referenced a couple of the mentions to some of the side stuff, like the video games, the fighting game that they reference. I mean, little things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's people in there who care about Star Wars, so I kind of feel like, boy, this wasn't the movie to slap upside the head, So yeah, like I said, I'm very, very torn. I like this one. I liked the one we're going to talk about soon. Spoilers, but hated The Last Jedi. Just hate what they're doing with those stupid episode films. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about it, frankly.
Well, here's the takeaway, and everybody's going to get the takeaway wrong. So here's my opinion on the takeaway. I feel like this could be indicative of an issue with the new generation of Star Wars movies. I'm gonna put it down to this is backlash from The Last Jedi. There's no other. It's a Star Wars movie. Okay, this shows us, number one, that the Star Wars brand is not infallible, and this should have been a relatively guaranteed big hit. And the fact that it's not says to me that the audience has decided, why bother? What's the big deal? Everybody's making excuses like, oh, because it came out, with Infinity War and Deadpool. Oh, well, obviously it's because, it's not a diverse cast as most casts. I've actually heard that, and I'm like, yeah, okay, if you want to go with that, you go right ahead with that, buddy. I've heard that it's because this is a niche character. I've actually heard people try to justify it saying this is a niche character. Mm-hmm. Okay, Han Solo is a niche character. But honestly, I would chalk it up to a little bit of Last Jedi and a little bit of, well, if it's not Harrison Ford, it's not Han Solo. That's the way I'm thinking that most audiences are looking at it. But the people I know that are Star Wars fans that have gone have all enjoyed. So yeah, I keep telling people, please see it. Please see it. It's worth the money. Yeah. But because most of the people ask, like, well, I didn't really like Last Jedi. I don't see any reason why I should continue on. And I don't know, man. I feel bad. I feel bad for this particular product. It's not indicative of the people that have worked on this product. I I'm also tired of people trying to convince me that I'm wrong about The Last Jedi. Okay,
Yeah.
because the majority of the arguments of everybody telling me I'm wrong about The Last Jedi is, oh well, you're just old and out of touch. It's like, screw you. Okay. You know what? We're gonna have to do a special podcast just on the frickin' Last Jedi again, because now I got my hankles up. I've got my hankles up. I actually
Oh my god! Well,
I had a text conversation with a friend of mine today, and she was like, "Oh, Last Jedi is much better than Rogue One." It's like, what? And she tried to show me this in defense of Last Jedi by Mikey. Have you seen the movies by Mikey?
I believe so. Yeah, I think I did see that one. Yeah.
Okay. So as I'm watching it, it's like, this isn't convincing me of anything. This is repeating the same thing over and over again. It's like, oh well, it's like when I saw it the third time. This was the key thing that the guy said. When I saw it the third time, it's like, why do I need to see it a third time?
Yeah.
Okay. There's movies that do things like, say, like a movie like Memento. Let's take the movie like Memento, for example. A movie like Memento is a movie that definitely benefits from a second viewing because it's a movie that's told in a specific and unique way, and a second viewing could actually fill in a lot of little things that you might have missed along the way. This is a Star Wars movie, okay?
Right.
It's allowed to have a level of nuance, but it's not supposed to be so frickin', ingeniously subtle and so on and so forth that it takes multiple viewings to truly appreciate it. I kind of feel like that's a situation where if you force feed yourself a specific type of food enough times, eventually you're just like, yeah, okay, I get it now. It's like, no, yeah. Whatever. I'm tired. I'm just tired of that. I'm tired of people telling me why I'm wrong about Last Jedi and being indignant about it, no less. So
it's funny too. As much as you're saying how we really need to do another look at it. You know what? I agree with you, but on the other hand, boy, I don't remember the last time that I've seen anything. I mean, when I look at my YouTube, I go on YouTube and I see all the recommendations, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, it seems that there's a new video dissecting what's wrong with The Last Jedi. I mean, people have every inch of that movie, it's gotten so much ire by people. It's gotten so much attention, and it's amazing how bad this film is that people can just go on and on about it. There was one guy called the Anti-Trekker who did like a 24-part series on it, for God's sakes.
Jesus.
And in each one, he had multiple points about things that were just so awful. I mean, I watched a new one just the other day, and the guy talking about, just focusing on one small part of what's so wrong about this film. He talks about bathos, which is not only the attempted comedy, but the specific type of comedy where something kind of jolting or shocking happens to get a laugh in an otherwise tense situation. And he talked about how this movie does not, that kind of humor does not work here. It does not make sense. They talk about how, like, in the middle of the part where Rey and Kylo Ren are in the throne room and they've just killed Snoke, they back-to-back start taking out the other guys. In the middle of that, for some reason, they cut to the hallway where the little droid is running around with the black box on his head, trying to be in disguise, and bumps into the wall. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, why here? Why here would you stick that in there? This is the most tense. This is essentially the climax of the film, more or less. Why would you cut to a goofy joke? And then not long after that is the goofy part with the iron coming down, and the guy says, "This isn't even bad. This is parody. This is, by all accounts, this is parody. This is Spaceballs. It's not even a Star Wars joke." I mean, and frankly, I, to this day, still feel like people haven't even really talked about all of the things that are wrong with it, no matter how much discussion happens. I mean, I still go back to the idea, what is the whole plot of the film? The Empire finds them at the planet where they're on. So what do? They evacuate the planet they're on, have a slow speed chase through the galaxy to go to another planet, to land on that planet and have a fight there. Well, why didn't they just have the fight in the first planet? Why did he go across the galaxy to land on another planet to have the ground assault? Why couldn't you do that at the planet they were on? I mean, again, I literally, for people who say they like this film, I cannot find anything about this film that makes sense to me. I really, really mean that from the bottom of my heart. The more I think about it, the more I've have had discussions about it, it makes less and less sense. I don't think the basic plot of the film holds water at all. Nothing about the film makes any sense. The people's motivations don't make any sense. I don't know who's who cares about what. I don't even know where this new empire came from. I don't know why the rebellion that won in Return of the Jedi, again, they're already calling themselves the Resistance. They have this new uprising of the New Order, yet they're calling themselves the Resistance already. So again, I don't know anything about what's going on with these films, and we're already 2/3 of the way through. So there's no part of me that is vaguely interested in Part 9. So, again, well, that was a longer rant on this topic than I thought I was going to.
It's okay. One of the things that people have pointed out to me is like they find the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren to be compelling, and I can see that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can see how it would be compelling. But my argument back is, what's the point?
Yeah.
The transition between Force Awakens to The Last Jedi has told us everything that's come before doesn't matter.
Right.
So when they cut to the final part, all that stuff that happened in Last Jedi doesn't matter. Why should we invest in any of this when they'll just basically say, nope, just kidding, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I don't even mind the fact that Rey's parents were nothing. I really don't mind that they were nothing. If it had been a one-line thing in the first movie that she mentioned that her parents abandoned her and someday they would come back, and they didn't keep hammering it home throughout the entire gosh darn movie, the reveal that the parents were nobodies would have been like, okay, I kind of like that. That's, here I'm thinking, giant universal connection and so on and so forth, and that's fine. But you don't beat it into me in one movie just to tell me, that last movie, that didn't count. Because now I feel like none of the movies are going to have any credibility. This is my problem.
Yeah, exactly. So, and incidentally, the thing about Rey and Kylo Ren, by the way, again, I go back to the idea. This to me is like Star Wars for millennials. It's Rey who would, instead of training, would rather just sit in her room and brood while she texts, and they trade shirtless texts with her good-looking boyfriend, and the father comes in and says, "Cut out what you're doing." I mean, it's just so ridiculous to me. Like the two, she sits in there and is like Skyping with Kylo Ren, and again, because of that, I'm supposed to sort of understand a weird kind of a dynamic or some sort of a thing going on here. I said from the get-go, if these two end up together, no, absolutely not. You cannot redeem Kylo Ren. If they try that in the next one, I mean, I'm already over it. But I mean, if that's what they're trying to lead up to with this, no. You don't kill off Han Solo and then redeem yourself in the last. No. Sorry.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's why the box office for Han Solo went down, because nobody had faith. We didn't have faith. We were going to pay for other movies to see it. That's why it's down. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, it's really is, again, it's just so, I really wish they would just get her out of there, Kathleen Kennedy, so fast. I swear to God, George Lucas, as much as we always said that he ruined the prequels, Kathleen Kennedy has desecrated the last three. I don't know, again, I don't know what you call it. You have the original trilogy and you have the prequels and you have I don't know what you call these, but I mean, she has desecrated these. I think what she has done to these films is sacrilege. I cannot dislike these films more. I really can't. I mean, and again, all the episode 7 ever was like a promise of better films to come. It was like, hey, look, Star Wars is back, and we got stuff. We're look at this. We got this on the stove, and this is gonna happen, and hey, we're gonna talk about this. So stay tuned. We got more coming. And 8 just said, yeah, like you said, screw all that. So like, okay.
Oh, we didn't mean it.
Yeah. And if one more person says something about subverting expectations, I swear to God, I'm like, look, having a dumb twist to your movie does not make that subverting expectations.
Yes. Yeah, no.
Having something completely illogical happen just because you didn't see it coming because it makes no sense doesn't mean, oh, look, we've subverted expectations. No.
Hey, look, we took a bad plot turn. Yay. Enough. Either we're doing a full show on this or we're going to let's enhance our calm and let's talk about something else.
The world is coming undone. Imperial flags reign across the galaxy.
Can you be trusted without your shackles?
Let's just get this over with, shall we?
We've a mission for you. A major weapons test is imminent. We need to know how to destroy it.
If you're really doing this, I want to help.
The daughter of an Imperial scientist joins the Rebel Alliance in a risky move to steal the Death Star plans. Written by Chris Weitz and Tony Gilroy, story by John Knoll and Chris Weida, based on characters created by George Lucas, directed partially by Garth Edwards. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Now, this movie also went through some interesting production issues. Not as public as Han Solo, but definitely did go through some production issues. They did do a relatively large-scale reshoots about 4 to 5 months before the movie was premiering. Very, very quickly. So much so that they had to get a whole new... I think they had a different musical director, music composer, and like Michael Giacchino came in at the last minute and like basically came up with the soundtrack. And by the way, I want to give him credit because the soundtrack was still damn epic.
Agreed. Yeah.
Are you with me?
I kind of walked into this movie thinking to myself, man, I hope they didn't make a mess of this. Well, they didn't. For a relatively simple story, hey, how did they get the Death Star plans? Gosh darn it, they made a movie, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you, and this was kind of a surprise for me because, again, well, maybe not so much of a surprise back then because again, 7 was out already, and again, it just felt like a big placeholder for things to come, and so I really didn't know what to expect from this one, and when I saw it, I have to tell you, and I still to this day feel the same way. It was pretty spectacular. And again, it's almost, I almost feel like it sets itself up for mediocrity. It sets itself up to be sort of labeled as like, not the real Star Wars story, just a little kind of a side thing. So it's a little asterisk in the right-hand column or something. It's 1.0, whatever. Yeah, that's okay, but still, I don't mind that. And again, not every single one of the Star Wars stories has to be the epic, good versus evil, everything. Even though this sort of is, again, I've said all along, I'm kind of going to repeat myself, but I've always said the Star Wars universe is big enough that you can have different stories take place here that, again, would make perfectly logical sense. They can contribute to the overall Star Wars mythos that we know. For all, we could have new characters. Whatever. I just thought this was really, really well done. And again, just a little reminder, this was my number one pick of 2017 or 2016 rather. And again, it nudged out Civil War. And honestly, and that
which
to
I'll
me
never
is
forgive
like,
you for. No, I'm kidding.
But
Go on.
again, seriously, I absolutely love Civil War. I thought this was a absolutely flawless film. That was spectacular action, and we had talked about, the storylines lining up perfectly to make a perfect arc for the people involved. So for this to nudge that out in my mind, it really had to do something special. And what it did was, again, and this is tough to do. It really did bring back, put it this way. I saw the original trilogy in the 80s, the 70s and 80s when I was a kid. And I sat through special editions and then I sat through the prequels, and I even sat through episode 7. And all of these are trying to sort of say, hey, look, this is Star Wars. But again, it doesn't feel like the Star Wars I knew. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you, by the time they get to the climax of Rogue One, by the time the rebellion shows up and I see X-Wings flying in and I hear that epic score coming back, and I'm actually seeing some of the faces of the people. And again, I've seen Star Wars like 100 times. I mean, how many times have I seen Star Wars in my lifetime? So the faces of the people are etched in my brain. Like how many of us know who Porkins is? You and I, and a select few. But holy cow, when you started to see the faces that from the original trench run, the original attack on the Death Star, those faces, and it was amazing how they did that. Like they grabbed like alternate takes of these actors, right? So they put them in here, and it was seamless. And I'm like, you have to be kidding me. Like I'm going out of my chair. So, that to me was, that climax was so good. And again, I really did get that initial, that same charge that I got from the original films, which nothing coming out of Lucasfilm has done since. I swear, I'm talking about, nothing they have put out since 1983 has come close, and this one honestly doesn't. Now, I'm not saying it's a perfect film by any stretch, but boy, does it! Like I said, there's something about it that really works. I've always said we need a Star Wars that kind of puts the war back in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be. I don't want super duper gritty, but something a little bit where you get your hands a little dirty. And, you see the guys kind of down in the trenches, not up in the throne rooms, but down on the ground. Right. And I really thought this does it really well. The characters are really good. And it's funny, too. We'll talk about it, because I felt like when this film came out, a lot of the armchair, amateur reviewers kind of were very nitpicky about a lot of things. And I kind of didn't really understand a lot of it, but we'll, like I said, we'll talk about it. All right, I've sucked the air out of the room, my friend. Take over a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So what we have here is the story of Galen Erso and his daughter Jin. Now, Galen is a technological genius, it would appear. He has been tracked down by a Mr. Director Krennic, played by Ben Mendelsohn, and we should probably mention that Galen Erso is played by the wonderful Mads Mikkelsen. Mm-hmm. That man just, he's got the strangest looking face, but damn it, the sucker can act like nobody's business, can't he?
Yeah. Kind of underused in this, but good.
Very, very underused, but for what he was in, he was effective.
Yeah.
Krennic has reached a roadblock in the construction of the Death Star, needs him back, kills his wife, the daughter disappears, she grows up, is basically a criminal, and now the rebellion is looking for her because it has been found out that Galen Erso is trying to get word out about the Death Star project. This is the basic plot of the story. The rest of the movie is figuring out where he is, putting a team together, and I kind of like how the way the team comes together. It's not one of those things like, oh, I'll come along or anything like that. They just kind of meet up kind of randomly and just kind of bond together over that. Danny Yen shows up as Chirrut and his partner Baze. Then you've got the pilot Bodhi. This is the entirety of the Rogue group. And they give themselves their own title, the Rogue One. And then you have the charming, the wonderful, the talented Alan Tudyk as K2SO, who may be the best robot in the Star Wars universe ever. I'm just putting it out there right now. You can love your R2-D2s and your C-3POs and your BB-8s, and you can love all those guys. K2SO, he's the real deal, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
He reminds me very much of this video game character called HK-47 from the Knights of the Old Republic video game. Very sarcastic, just really, really wonderful. Every time he spoke, I was just giggling. See, there's an example of using humor correctly, ladies and gentlemen. There is,
exactly,
you need absolutely, yes, you need little moments of levity, especially with the darkness of certain subject matter, and having the robot that basically knows no chill coming up with the stuff is just beautiful as far as I'm concerned. So K2SO is definitely the champion to me in this movie. Diego Luna as Cassian, the guy who seeks out Jin, who's leading this expedition. This is actually a relatively complicated plot. You know, the basic gist is use the daughter, find the father, kill the father so he doesn't make more weapons. Except they find out that the father has now put a flaw in the Death Star, and thank you for closing that particular plot hole for all these years.
Right.
You know? Oh, we spent a couple of $1 trillion on this giant planet and this tiny little hole right here. Nobody thought to look for that. Or the other side of the coin is it's like, you know, because then people will argue, well, you know, of course that happens. Building flaws can happen all the time, and it can be missed by a myriad of people. It's like, okay, you know what? That's fine. How'd the rebels find it so fast? Oh, that's right. Somebody told them. But yes, so there you go. That's the basic plot of the story, and they build these wonderful little characters. And, you know, as much as I love K2SO, I felt like every character had these wonderful little beats. Except, you know, no offense to Forrest Whitaker, but the Saw Gerrera character, not my favorite. A little too over the top, shall we say. I didn't particularly care for his character, but everybody else I really dug. I really got a kick out of each of the characters, and I felt that each of their motivations were made plain as the story progressed. I love the callback to the original trilogies. Sometimes it was a little too in your face. Running into the guys from the cantina from episode 4 was a little much. Yeah. But besides that, I thought the rest of the callbacks were nice. And God, some of the most incredible CGI facial reconstruction work I've ever seen in my life in the form of Tarkin. I mean, even just rewatching it recently, I was watching Tarkin extremely close. And I was floored by how well they did with it.
I agree with that. I think it was actually probably just shy of being like, put it this way. I mean, I marvel at how close they're getting to, you know, to flat on perfect, I guess.
Yes.
But anything short of perfect, unfortunately, does sort of make you go, oh, all right, I see what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you. That was probably one of the things that I thought they could have, you know, not bothered with. I mean, we have, you know, in these films, we have enough, you know, in the prequels and in like Solo, for example, we have younger actors taking on the parts of the actors from the original trilogy.
Right.
And frankly, I think they probably could have just gotten a lookalike to Peter Cushing and done just as well. You know, I probably think people would have forgiven if they just got a guy who was just close enough to him and not quite. I don't think you really needed to do a whole full-blown CGI character. And that probably that also goes for the Princess Leia cameo at the end, which was great, which was a great moment. But yeah, I get just a tiny little bit. I don't want to say spoiled because, again, it's pretty remarkable what they're doing. They are getting it damn close. So it's impressive what they're doing. But again, there's just kind of that little moment that sort of takes you out for a second when you're kind of like, oh, yeah, okay. You know, it's almost like 1 second it's dead on and the next second it's kind of off and you kind of can't put your finger on why. So yeah, frankly I just think, you know what, you might as well just get some younger actors in there.
Yeah, potentially, but you know what? I could see why they would choose this method, because one of the things that I heard somebody say is when this movie ended, it made me really want to watch A New Hope, and
yes,
by going that extra level to get it to look to be as authentic as possible, it's now a seamless transition. Since like Solo can take place at any point long before it, you can't watch Solo and then watch A New Hope. There's no transition to that. Okay, if they wind up making a sequel to Solo, they would probably have to slowly start finding a way to really transition it over. But that's not the point of the Solo movies. Pun not intended. I think that doing that just was as a way to truly bookend, just like using the original, the alternate takes of the original fighters of the X-wings and everything like that. That's probably exactly why they did that, to add to that.
Yeah, oh, totally. I completely agree with you. When you have the footage, use it. But if you don't, what do you do? Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I mean, they do try to line it up perfectly, and they actually, I mean, they do pretty well too. Yeah, I mean, that is pretty amazing about.
They get pretty damn close. I'll say that much. You know, I have a couple of questions. For example, at one point they show R2-D2 and C-3PO on Yavin, and we know that eventually they got to wind up on the blockade runner with Princess Leia. How they get from there to there? That's kind of a little bit of an unanswered question.
Oh, I think I have an answer. I mean,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because the reason why I bring that up is because at one point they make a point of having Jimmy Smits back as Bail Organa.
Which I thought was awesome, by the way.
Yes, that was extremely awesome.
I like that they were able to bring something from the prequels in and make it work. It's almost like in this film he looks 10 times more credible than he did in the prequels. If that makes any sense.
I know. I'll give it. Absolutely. I do agree with that. But at one point, like shortly before this happens, he mentions about him going to get his Jedi friend, and that he's going to send somebody, you know, that he trusts with his life. I trust her with my life. He's implying Leia. Okay.
Of course.
So Leia was going to go get Ben Kenobi. So why is Leia with this group attacking the place? Is there a scene missing of them explaining, well, shoot, if we can get these plans, we can bring them right to Ben Kenobi or something like that? That's the part I'm kind of confused on. If she was supposed to be off on an envoy to get Ben Kenobi, how is it she got on this capital ship now that Darth Vader is on that she has to now escape from, to start the big escape from the end of Star Wars, from the beginning of Star Wars, excuse me.
Yeah, I don't. Well, that's a great question, and I frankly think you kind of answered it really.
Oh yeah, go on.
I mean, again, a bunch of rebel ships show up. She's on one of them, and of course, the one that they transmit, they do the thing, and somehow for some reason they're all piling on to that one ship to get it. It seems like they're trying to get it right to her.
Right.
I mean, of all the ships in that group, they basically try to put it on hers, and I guess the reason is to get it to Ben Kenobi.
I guess I could see that. It feels loose, but still tight. If that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. That's really kind of my one. I have a couple of problems, but that one kind of stuck in me just rewatching it. It's like, well, wait a minute, where's the logic in bringing her to the middle of the battle if she's supposed to be off getting Ben Kenobi? What's going on here?
Yeah. Well, that makes you're right. I mean, I will say this: the vibe that I kind of got from the original Star Wars was almost like, Ben Kenobi was never really part of the plan. He was kind of like the last minute Hail Mary, because all was pretty much, things were pretty desperate. Almost like Lando in Empire. It's like, hey, Lando, he's in this area. Let's try him. Maybe he can help us. It was almost like she's near Tatooine. oh, isn't Ben Kenobi around here? Let's see what he's up to. But having said that, I think the way they kind of structure it here works pretty well. I mean, again, she is part of the rebellion. You know, why not? Why wouldn't she be on a spaceship, and why not in one of those? Now again, this is somebody who has military aspirations, I guess. I mean, she's very much a part of the rebellion throughout the whole series.
She becomes a general eventually, so yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, again, in the first Star Wars, she kind of sort of comes across as the fair maiden who needs rescuing. However, she is very in Empire and Jedi. She's very active. She's very active in the, especially like think about her in Empire on Hoth. Shooting out commands. We're gonna do this. We're doing this. Here's the strategy. Yada yada. I mean, she was very much a part of the militaristic part of the rebellion. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem with him. I mean, essentially, Jimmy Smits has spoken with Mon Mothma. He has selected Princess Leia to be the one to carry the message to the Jedi Ben Kenobi.
All right, I'll give it some thought. It feels loose.
I don't know if that's perfect, but I think it's enough to.
Well, it doesn't. It still doesn't detract from the rest of the movie.
And by the way, what you said about C-3PO and R2-D2, I think they're essentially now Jimmy Smits droids.
Yeah, pretty much. So they probably went with him. That's probably very true.
Yeah.
Well, they actually kind of established that at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Wipe the memory of the protocol unit. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So yes.
But then again, why are they on the ship with Princess Leia and he went to Alderaan?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe he roundabout went to Alderaan.
Okay, so he went all the way to Alderaan and said, okay, now get back with the rebellion. Here, take the droids with you. She comes all the way back to the rebellion, makes it in time to pop on the capital ship to go all the way to Scarif. And
maybe he flies to maybe Jimmy Smits flies directly to Princess Leia's ship and just leaves the droids there before he goes to Alderaan to get blown up.
I'm going to go with here's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Princess Leia was there, and he just went back to Alderaan and sent her in his place from Yavin 4. I'm going to go with that. That's the best explanation I can come up with. So the only other part, I didn't particularly care for Forrest Whitaker's character. At first, I was like, okay, he's the guy that saves Jin, but then he kind of was off his rocker, and I didn't kind of feel like. I don't know. I just didn't feel his character, man. To be honest with you, every other character had a good thing going on with them, but for some reason, and I love Forrest Whitaker, but for some reason, his character just felt off.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because he wasn't his character from Rebels or something.
Yeah, his character eventually showed up on.
So
Rebels.
I don't know what he was like in that, but yeah, I mean, I guess you're showing him in his senior years, and he is up and old, and I mean he's old and paranoid. I mean, it's almost like any older person, like when they hit a certain age, they start to get paranoid. He's basically, I mean, he's more or less Bin Laden living in the mountains, living in a cave. Yeah, and paranoid of anybody coming to see him.
More lies.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They did get a little carried away with that stuff, and it kind of didn't really. I get the impression that was probably one of the things that got a little goofed up in the cutting room floor with reshoots and stuff. Because I remember there was also, I think there were parts when they showed him. I think in the first trailers, I thought there were shots of him bald, and then there were other shots where he had hair. Yeah. So I do think they kind of messed with his character a little bit somehow. And also even that squid monster thing that's supposed to get the truth out of the pilot. I mean, it didn't do anything for me.
Or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, but the other characters I thought worked great, frankly.
Yeah. The last little problem that I have, all right, Jyn Erso starts off as a kid, sees her mother die, grows up basically on her own, smuggler, thief, whatever it took to stay alive. She has the hero's journey of going from this no-nonsense, I don't give a crap, I got to do what I need to do to survive, to sacrificing herself for the greater good, to the rebellion. And a part of me feels like that's wonderful. I love those type of stories, don't get me wrong, but I didn't, and I was watching very closely this time, I didn't find that moment of, like, epiphany, that moment where she changed. Because literally, the moment that she changed happened because her father died. Her father died because the rebellion attacked and killed him, and now all of a sudden she's still going back to the rebellion after they just attacked and killed her father and everything like that. I kind of felt like that was kind of a strange motivation for her suddenly to be willing to sacrifice herself for the galaxy.
I had a different take on it.
Okay.
My take on it was that the epiphany happens when she sees the hologram of her dad. Mm-hmm. And she realizes again, because I mean, when you're young, you don't know why. I mean, your father's taken away. I don't hear from him anymore. He's gone. My mother's dead. And she just kind of, and again, she's half raised by Saul Guerrero, who eventually sort of leaves her because like he said, I had to ditch you because they were looking for you because they were going to use you as a hostage at some point. So yeah, messed up childhood, doesn't know who to believe, who doesn't know what to think. All of a sudden, she sees the hologram of the father, who explains crystal clear exactly what happened, exactly why he, and telling her that he loved her and stuff, and why he had to leave, and why he has to protect her by not being around or whatever. I frankly thought that was the epiphany. And now she realizes like exactly what her father was doing all along, and now she sort of takes on the father's cause. And I do also agree though. The idea that the rebellion was going to take out Galen Erso, I didn't quite get that. I still don't quite get it. I don't get why they felt the need at this point to murder him. I mean,
the motivations for that is very vague, yes. I
found it to be incredibly vague. And again, it's almost like you, even when they send him out to, and he goes up on the mountain like he's going to sniper him out,
right?
And I'm thinking, like, you have a lot of Imperial officers standing there. Why, of all the people there, do you shoot Galen Erso? The Death Star is done at this point. It's almost like a revenge kill. Why don't you take out some of the other senior guys? Why wouldn't you take out Krennic?
Yeah, not to mention the fact that she's just told you. Well, we know that that's the reason why he doesn't shoot, because Jin tells him that he wants to destroy the Death Star.
Right.
So we understand Cassian why he won't shoot.
Right.
But the reason why Command would be so short-sighted, it's almost like the rebellion could have died at that moment had it not been for Cassian, for him not pulling the trigger.
Right. True. Yeah. Very true. I mean, they do try to, and I like the realism that they're going for here, in the idea that, again, you're dealing with multiple people with multiple feelings about how to fight a war. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of found that to be very believable. Right. So that part I like. I mean, again, when they get to the point at the end, when it turns into a big giant committee meeting, half want to run and give up, half want to fight, that kind of thing. I found it to be very believable, frankly.
I agree.
That's one of the things I really liked about this film, is that, again, that sort of realness that I think they bring to the universe.
Right. The type of realness that they're saying, oh, we're bringing realness and down to earthness and stuff like that, it just comes across hollow in the other trilogy, shall we call it? Like what's the one thing they talk about? Oh, we're all about diversity. I looked at this cast. Very diverse cast, extremely diverse cast. Mm-hmm. Does anybody make a big deal about it? No. That's the whole point. You don't sit there and say. My problem with the Last Jedi is not that you're just a misogynistic pig because it's being led by a woman. It's like, no. Rogue One was led by a woman. I don't have a problem with gender. I have a problem with bad characters. Jyn Erso is a compelling character. And is played well by Felicity Jones. Okay,
right.
you're not making a good case at all, as far as I'm concerned. This is a movie. Yeah. Every single member of that group is a different race. Who the hell cares? They're just characters. I didn't care. I didn't care that the guy who constantly was saying, I'm one with the Force and the Force with me. I didn't care that he was. It wasn't the fact that who he was. It was his character. I loved his character. He just a small little character. Donnie Yen freaking kicked some serious butt in that part.
Yeah. It was very good.
It's like, who cares? Why does it have to always be about, what it means to the real world? Show, don't tell. Don't tell me how I'm supposed to feel about how this affects the real world. Show me. Show it to me. Just let it sit and judge for itself. And then afterwards in interviews, you want to say, yes, we were very conscious and so on and so forth for this and that. Fine. But don't open your statement with, diversity or right. We spent X million dollars on the special effects. I don't want to hear that stuff before the movie comes out. Okay? Don't break the illusion by bringing real world into it, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. No, I completely agree. And incidentally, by the way, one of the things a mild complaint I had about Solo was I felt like, and with a lot of the Star Wars, the modern Star Wars, every other thing walking around is an alien. I kind of felt like this, to me, was back to what I thought. I like seeing people. I want to see human beings with kind of like just hints of aliens around. Like there was a couple guys. I like the guy who was kind, and I'm sort of wondering why they did this. By the way, I like the guy who was sort of the Mon Calamari, but not quite. Mm-hmm. He was like the kind of Admiral Akbar, but different.
Yeah, same race, different guy. Yeah, General Radis,
and sitting in the same chair doing the same stuff. And I'm saying to myself, you might as well just put Admiral Akbar in there. Let him be a little younger and a little more, peppy and loud and whatever. But whatever. But again, I like that the majority of the players in this are people and not CGI aliens running around. I kind of feel like it almost makes if the robot, he was a great addition to this, but you'd sort of water him down if you throw too many others around and just stuff going on.
Agreed. 100% agreed. And I loved K2SO. I will never complain about K2SO.
It was very funny. Absolutely.
Great little addition to the film. The humor just when you needed it, and humor that was within his character. Like, he basically begged for forgiveness. Like, his first line in the movie is, please don't move. You are being rescued. Congratulations.
Right.
I find myself compelled. I felt that the action was much more on point, much more visceral. I felt like the big battle on Scarif was amazing. On the ground, in the air, all of that was amazing. When's the last time like an on the ground laser battle in a Star Wars movie made you feel something? Watching this small group of rogue group, taking out all those stormtroopers and stuff like that, I was in. I was like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And every shot felt like it hurt, no matter who it was.
Totally.
And I loved like the little touches, like a rebel would go down, and like another rebel would like go over to him and like check on them and like and then get back into the battle. Just little things like that, little touches like that just humanize the entire experience. The characters dying at the end was freaking brilliant, as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
You go in there with expectations, and there's no law saying that they had to die at the end, but I liked that they did. I like that we got introduced to this group of heroes, probably the biggest heroes in the Star Wars galaxy, aside from our main three, and this was their sacrifice, this was their life, and I'm gonna admit it as well. Of all the characters, it was K2SO's death that made me sad.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the fact that they were able to make his death so emotional was awesome.
Yeah. Poor little robot.
Jin, whatever I do it to protect you. So you understand?
I understand.
It is time, my friend. It is time to give the Piper his due. We are talking about Star Wars Story, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Joe, my friend, out of 10, what do we got?
You might find this to be slightly generous, but you know what? I'm giving this one a 9. Like I said, this was... Well, I'll just say it this way. This is the best Star Wars film out of anything we've gotten after the original 3. In fact, I will put this on par with Return of the Jedi in terms of just being exciting, great story, great everything. Like I said, this, for a film to really kind of pull me back into, and again, this is after the prequels, after the new episodes, after the special, whatever. Years and years of kind of, more Star Wars, but nothing has ever really kind of really given me that shot of adrenaline and give me that feel of the originals. This one did. It really kind of put me back into like, this is what Star Wars was or should be, or hopefully it maybe will be again. This is Star Wars. Again, I think the characters are terrific. I think the level of realism and seriousness that they give this, the tone doesn't bounce around. The tone stays very consistent. The characters are all very compelling. Again, the Donnie Yen character I thought was awesome. I mean, this was kind of like Star Wars meets Saving Private Ryan. This was bringing the war back into Star Wars and setting it in the world of George Lucas's Star Wars. I love the references to other things. They call them the Guardians of the Wills, for God's sake.
Yes.
I mean,
love
right?
that.
I mean, so many little details that kind of tied in together. And again, not only is this a great film, but it actually improves upon the original Star Wars. How hard, like, you cannot say that about a lot of films. It actually improves upon the original Star Wars by addressing things that, seem like plot holes in the original Star Wars. So this to me accomplishes a lot of tasks, and it really does. Again, it just sets up a world that you feel like you could walk into. And again, the prequels they just so fumbled the ball in that way. It felt like you were watching a cartoon. It felt like this is not a real world. This feels like a real world. It feels like you could step in and bump into people from other films, even though I agree that there was a tiny bit of too much fan service in the Walrus guy. But again, I really think this film was spot on, and when it comes to what I would like to see from future Star Wars films, look to this one as a guideline and say, this is the template. Okay, make it where, take some little. Again, there's so many stories to be told in this world, and if you just do it the right way, with good characters and a good story and excitement and good everything, this is how you do it. I really, like I said, I think this is far and away the best post-original trilogy Star Wars that we've gotten.
I can't disagree with you, sir. I gave it an 8. And the only reason I gave it an 8, because it's like an 8.5 and I rounded down. Sorry. I did love this movie very much. I enjoyed it. More so this next time this is like my third time watching it. I felt much more different about it watching it this time than I did the first time. First time I was like, oh, well, that was interesting. And I couldn't kind of wrap my mind around it. And I think it was still post The Force Awakens. And it's funny how I'm seeing it now with new eyes, with new appreciation than I did the first time. I think I took it for granted the first time because I wasn't completely sold on the idea of side stories. And I think between this and Solo, I kind of feel like, what? Maybe we should just dump the Skywalker trilogies. Maybe after 9, just leave it at that. Just set off on this universe. Why not just set off on this universe? Find something. You don't have to go the Marvel route. This and Solo proved to me that you could do a standalone film based on this universe and tell a compelling story.
Yeah.
More so here than in Solo. I had a blast with this movie, and I have really only very few character complaints, and you know me and characters, so that's going to be my thing, and I'm not gonna apologize for that. But yeah, no, I felt that everything that happened was earned. That each of the characters had their growth, their moments. You know, I almost wish that I knew more about the characters so that their deaths might have had a little more impact on me. I mean, poor Bodhi gets a freaking grenade thrown on him inside a freaking shuttle, for God's sakes. Terrible way to go. But, you know, they even gave him that second to realize I'm dead and give him his reaction and give the audience that moment to react to that, which I appreciated, but you know, we didn't know much about Bodhi, and we didn't know much about Donnie's character and his you know, his friend Baze, who went out in a blaze of freaking glory with that wonderful, God, what the hell was that rifle he had on his back? That thing was freaking awesome. And even that last shot of Jin and Cassian on the beach when they realize this is it, and they just kind of hold on to each other and wait for the sun to come at them. You know, I didn't quite get as, you know, emotional as I did with K2SO, but I got a little, you know, for that moment. But in Michael Giacchino's score sold that. And I really appreciate that, like, literally 5 seconds after that happened to them, we get my for your consideration. And we'll get to that in a minute. Because, Joe, who asked you, sir?
Who asked me? You know what? I am going to... I was going to... Well, I kind of want you to go first. Well, actually, no, I'll go first. But because I was gonna go with the CGI Tarkin and Leia and say, like, again, these were moments that kind of took me out a little bit, and I felt like, again, I just felt like there probably was another way to do it with just getting younger characters, younger actors to play those parts. It was a tiny bit distracting. So what I will go with is the assassination of Galen Erso. And again, I kind of felt like it was the part in the story. I really sort of felt like I didn't really see the point of that. And again, even subsequent viewings, I still sort of feel like I'm not getting why this was a thing. I mean, again, you can be taking out Imperial officers. Why the need to take out Galen Erso, who's... it didn't make a lot of sense. And I kind of felt like even that scene in the film, it was almost like I still sort of get confused. Why are they all there? Why are they at this particular place? Why are they, of all the resources and the energies you could be expending, why here and why to do that? Yeah. So again, I that's the little bit of the plot in the story where I kind of feel like it gets a little, it just kind of feels a little weighed down. It's a slow part. And again, I don't really know what it contributes except to cause friction between Jen and
Cassian. Yes.
I almost feel like when you walk away, that's the only thing that accomplishes. So I wonder why it was necessary. And that's it. That's really all I got. And even that probably can be explained away. Somebody might be able to explain it better than I can. That's really all I got.
Yeah, I can understand that, dude. That's actually a pretty good Who Asked You, because I kind of felt like they were hammering home too much. Kill him. But I don't know. And I guess in the context of the idea of this like rogue group, I mean, they were called Rogue One for a reason. Just doing the dirty work of the rebellion. I kind of could see it. For me, it's gonna be the Saw Gerrera character. I felt like there was an interesting character there that had an arc that we have no idea about. And even on Star Wars Rebels, when they had him, they didn't really kind of explain how he went from being this person. Here's the way I look at it. The person that Galen Erso would trust his wife and daughter to is not the person we saw in that movie near the end. If Galen Erso had seen that Saw Gerrera, he would have been like, oh, hell no. No. I'm going to get somebody else to watch my wife and kid if that's all right. And I feel like there's a story there that, I'm sure that they have an idea of what it is. But because we don't know the story, I kind of feel like that from point A to point B is almost so extreme that it's jarring. And I just found it jarring. I would have liked a little more flesh to the tiniest bit of flesh to the character. You know, even just so, for God's sakes, Donnie Yee's character gets an introduction. You know, a protector of the wills. You know, the guardians of the Kyber crystals. Boom. That's all you need to know, and that's perfect. But this character, he's introduced as this, tough, war person that this man is going to trust his wife and kid with, to this crazy paranoid son of a gun, and I'd like to know how the heck he got there. I felt it was just too jarring a transition, and could have used a tiny bit more explanation to make real.
Right. Yeah, I'll agree with you there. And incidentally, too, again, there was a lot of discussion about the reshoots. And, again, I mean, we've talked before about how there's so many scenes in just the trailers alone that never make it to the actual film, that it makes you sort of wonder, what's going on there, and are we missing something? Again, I don't find that to be... I don't find that to be an accurate criticism, because, again, you're assuming that there's something better that happened before that they sort of messed around with. I don't make that assumption. I have no reason to believe that this is the superior film to what was happening before. Although, with questions like that, with little things hanging in the air, I do sort of wonder, what might have been, and what went on the cutting room floor, and are we missing pieces because of it? And, it'd be interesting to sort of find that out one day.
Probably a couple of years from now, who knows? Well, what about for your consideration, sir?
For me, it absolutely, positively has to be that dogfight, that climactic dogfight at the end. Again, I mean, honestly, when I first saw this in the theater, I was literally just jumping out of my seat. I was so excited by this. It was so damn good. Seeing, original faces and hearing that score finally, and even just some of the things that they do, the what they call it, the something Corvette, to knock the one Star Destroyer into the other one. I mean, you're just you're like, whoa.
That was amazing little idea. I like that so much.
That was epic. I mean, just so epic. I mean, that was absolutely tremendous.
I think it was called a Hammerhead Corvette.
That was right. Yeah, the Hammerhead Corvette.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think a lot of people will probably say the best part of the film was the Darth Vader scene at the end. I thought I was already worked up well before that, just by this climax. I think once the rebellion shows up, and again, I really didn't, I thought the whole thing was so incredibly earned, because they show you her going to the rebellion and trying to pitch and say, look, this is, we got to do this. And at that point, honestly, when I was watching the movie, I really thought, okay, well, it's just going to be this ragtag team of rebels are gonna win the day, and that's how this movie's gonna end. I did not expect the rebellion, the cavalry, to show up. So when it happened, I was just cheering like crazy. I mean, I just absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's all I got. I mean, I just felt like that was the point where everything really came together and tied it in with the larger Star Wars universe. And it was almost like the last puzzle piece that just it was like when Dad found the last bulb on the Christmas lights that wasn't working, and he figured out which one, and as soon as he screwed it in, wow, the whole tree lit up, and it all comes together now. And I that's how I was feeling when this happened. Everything just sort of lined up and worked, and I was right back to how I felt when I saw Star Wars for the first time.
That's awesome, dude. I don't blame you. That was a freaking tremendous space battle. Best space battle in a long time. And looked beautiful. Some of the best effects in any of the new trilogy, as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
And I am that other person. For my consideration, I expected a great space battle, and I got it, and I was very happy with it. Did not have an inkling about that hallway scene. Not one.
Yeah.
And when they were like, copy it, let's go, and so on and so forth, it's like the door's closed. It's like, where are they going with this? And all of a sudden they turn around, and just the minute you heard his breathing, I was like,
yeah.
And then the lightsaber lights up, and I was like, and then it was like zoom, 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 like
Yep.
I lost my shit in the theater when that happened. And to this day, every time I watch it, I am just smiling, giddy.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody, like whoever directed that scene, I don't know if it was Gilroy or Edwards or if it was written by Gilroy or whatever the situation may be, but whoever did that scene, that person understands Vader. Because in 1 minute, they show Darth Vader more so than they had showed any part of the original trilogy of the original prequels, and heck, maybe even some of the best parts of the original trilogy. Just badass as hell.
Yeah.
I was enthralled by that scene.
I agree. In fact, I remember even feeling to myself that I kind of thought, I almost felt that the movie was missing one more Vader scene. That I kind of felt like that could have been like, they talk about the rule of 3.
Yeah.
Where I frankly thought like if they just had him sort of maybe be on the ship in the beginning, just sort of saying, okay, everything seems to be going fine. I'm going to go back to wherever. I'll see you later. Thinking that's going to be the cameo or whatever. Then they show him again in the middle. And then here would have been the big climax. For some reason, I kind of thought like one more Vader shot was needed. I could be just wrong. I could be wrong. But
well, you had the scene with him with Krennic. Then you had the other scene with him on the bridge of the Star Destroyer when he sets up the blockade that stops the rest of the rebellion from escaping at the end.
Right.
And then he shows up the third time, lightsaber akimbo. So there's your 3 right there.
Well, okay. I
Prepare
kind of
a
feel like
boarding
that's
party or something like that.
Yeah. I feel like that's the same climax, but I'll give you that.
I see what you mean, especially since he was relatively prominent in the advertising, and really he only shows up for like 3 scenes. But man, two of those scenes were outstanding.
Yeah, completely.
And thus, ladies and gentlemen, with the exception of doing the original prequels and the sequels, the original trilogy and the prequels, we are now caught up with the modern era of Star Wars movies.
Yep. Yes, we are.
Well, at least half of them were good.
Yeah, agreed.
There's been 4 movies so far, and we've liked half of them. But hey, Star Wars. Take some notes from how Marvel does their movies, but not all notes.
Right.
Okay?
Take the right notes.
Yeah, the way Marvel does their humor is different and works in their universe. It's not going to work in yours. Please, no more hello, may I speak with General Hux's?
Yeah, agreed.
But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, for the next 2 weeks, my partner in crime will be unavailable. So we have pre-recorded 2 shows. Next week's show is going to be Arrival. I will be running the news solo, and then we'll play Arrival, which Joe and I have pre-recorded. So for the next 2 weeks, you're going to be stuck with me, at least for 20 minutes of the show.
Yep. We've got 2 weeks of David's think movies, his think pieces, his brainy sci-fi, which is and they came out great. So
yeah, I think so.
I'm looking forward to hearing them myself.
Yes. No pressure on me or anything like that. How am I going to fill 20 minutes solo?
Yeah, you'll go.
Right.
And then after that, we'll be back to Marvel.
Are we back to Marvel? Oh, that's right. We've got Ant-Man, don't we?
Well, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp coming out in July. So the 2 we are doing before that
is Doctor
of
Strange.
Course, the original Ant-Man and Doctor Strange.
Yep, that's right. That's right. So we've got tons ahead, ladies and gentlemen. We are planned till the end of the year.
That's
it. So until next time, Joe. Awesome as always, sir.
You too, my friend. Another good show.
Hey, have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.